اللهم اشف كل جائع، اللهم اكسو كل عريان، اللهم اقضي دين كل مدين، اللهم فرج عن كل مكروب، اللهم رد كل غريب، اللهم فك كل عسير، اللهم اصلح كل فاسد من امور المسلمين، اللهم اشفي كل مريض، اللهم سد فقرنا بغناك، اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك، اللهم اقض عنا الدين واغننا من الفقر، إنك على كل شيء قدير.
شکر اللہ شکر اللہ شکر اللہ الحمد للہ یا اللہ یا رحمان.
محمد زینب ہزی غش میں ہے پری بیبیاں سبھی روتے ہیں کھڑی وا محمدہ کی ان سے ہے صدا سجدے میں ہوا قتل مرتضی بے پدر ہوئے صبط نبی روتے ہیں ملک انبیاء سبھی بے پدر ہوئے صبط نبی روتے ہیں ملک انبیاء سبھی ماتم علی ان میں ہے صدا سجدے میں ہوا قتل مرتضی زلزلے میں ہے قبر مصطفیٰ کانپتی ہے آج لحد فاطمہ، زلزلے میں ہے قبر مصطفیٰ، کانپتی ہے آج لحد فاطمہ، اہل آسماں کرتے ہیں بکا، سجدے میں ہوا قتل مرتضیٰ، شور شین ہے آ جہان میں، آندھی ہے چلی آج کوفے میں، شور شین ہے آ جہان میں، آندھی ہے چلی آج کوفے میں، جبرائیل کی آتی ہے صدا، سجدے میں ہوا قتل مرتضیٰ، حق سے ہم کرے لوگوں یہ دعا، پہنچے ہم نجف جلد یا خدا، ماتم علی اس جا کرے بپا، سجدے میں ہوا قتل مرتضیٰ، وا محمدا وا موسی، سجدے میں ہوا قتل مرتضیٰ، صلی اللہ نبی۔
محمد صلوات
السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا سيد الوصيين، السلام عليك يا إمام المتقين، السلام عليك يا أبا الحسن والحسين، السلام عليك يا زوج البتول، السلام عليك يا نفس الرسول. As Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam would spend his last and final night in the house of Lady Zainab alayha salam, she reported that she saw him do the following act. He ate a bit and thanked Allah a lot and began his prayers and supplications. He would prolong his prostration and leave the house and come back often, and while looking at the sky, he would repeat, "Indeed, indeed, this is the night that I was promised by my beloved Prophet. هي والله الليلة التي وعدني بها حبيبي رسول الله." He then calmed and started wiping his face with his clothes, and then stood and said, "O Allah, bless us in your meeting." He then prayed until the night and slept for a while. He then woke up and told his children, "I saw a dream and I want to tell you about it." The children asked, "What was it that you saw?" Imam replied, "I saw the Messenger of Allah in my dream. He said to me, 'O Abul Hassan, you are coming to us shortly. You will be sent to us by the worst of creation. for he will drench your beard with your blood from your head. By Allah, I yearn for you, and you will join us in the last 10 nights of the holy month of Ramadan. So hasten to us, Ya Ali. When they heard the Imam's dream, they all began to cry. The commander of the faithful made them promise to remain silent and spent the night preaching to them to enjoin the good and forbid evil. The Imam spent the night in prostration, looking into the house and looking out, coming back and leaving and looking at the sky and saying, "By Allah, I have never lied or been accused of lying. Tonight is the night that I was promised with." He would then return to his prayer mat and say, "O Allah, bless me in death. Indeed, to Allah we belong, and to Him we shall return. And there is no power or strength except by Allah." Lady Zainab said, "When I saw my father so worried that night, seeking refuge in Allah, I asked him, 'Father, why do I see you restless this night?' He replied, 'O daughter, your father killed heroes and fought in battles and was never in a state of fear, and he never ever had fear enter his heart until this night. For to Allah we belong, and to Him we shall return." And it was as if the Imam was trying to signal that his night and his thoughts were on the impending meeting with the Jabbar as-samawati wal-ard. When it neared the time of dawn, I came to my father with a dish of water, and so he began his ablution, wore his clothes, and went into the courtyard of the house. We had geese that were gifted to my brother Hassan, and then they followed him to the courtyard and began to flap their wings to block him from leaving. And this was the first time I saw them do such a thing. So my father began saying, "La ilaha illallah, sawa'ih tatba'uha nawa'ih." That La ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah, and these are shouts that will be followed by lamentations. He reached the door, and his belt lashed onto the door and fell off him. So he picked it up and wrapped it around his waist, saying, "Ushdud hayazimaka lil-maut, فإن الموت لاقيك ولا تزع من الموت إذا حل بواديك كما أضحكك الدار كذلك الدهر يبكيك." Tonight, fasten your belt for death will surely find you, and do not be horrified by death. When it visits you, laugh. Just like life made you laugh, it will also make you cry. He also kept repeating, "O Allah, bless us in death, and bless us in your meeting." Hearing this, Lady Zainab said, "O Allah, have mercy upon us. Father, I hear that you are mourning yourself." The commander replied, "O daughter, I am not mourning myself, but these are all the signs of my death I see before me." And so he opened the door of the house and left for the mosque. Lady Zainab then said, "I went to my brother Hassan and said, 'This is what your father has been saying all night. Please go and follow him.' So Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, following his father, and reached him before he entered the mosque. However, the commander of the faithful ordered him to return home. Thus Imam Ali went onwards to his fate alone, in according to a narration. Ibn Muljam was hiding in the houses of the Khawarij in Kufa, trying to plot the assassination of Imam Ali. He was aided by two Khawarij, one known as Shabib ibn Barjra and Wardan ibn al-Mujalid. The Imam then entered the mosque and prayed the Nafila and rose to the Minar and called for the final adhan that they would hear. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. There was not a house in Kufa that was not penetrated by the voice of Amir al-Mu'mineen. He then came down from the Manar and began to remember Allah and began checking on those in the mosque, calling them to Salah. Then he would recite, indeed, prayer prohibits immorality and wrongdoing, until he reached Ibn Muljim, sleeping on his stomach, hiding his sword under his cloak. The Imam said to him, O you, rise from your sleep, for you are sleeping in the position disliked by Allah, for it is the sleep of shaitan and the sleep of the people of Jahannam. Sleep on your right, for it is the sleep of the smart, or sleep on your left, for it is the sleep of the patient, or sleep on your back, for it is the sleep of the Anbiya and Allah, of Allah. Subhanallah, this is Ali. Even in the moments leading up to his own assassination, he is advising his own killer. The Imam that said to him, you have decided to do something that the skies will be ripped apart from, and the earth will split from, and the mountains will sink from, and if you wish I can tell you what is hidden under your cloak. Then he left him. The Imam went towards the mihrab and began praying the Fajr prayer, prolonging his ruku' and sujood. Ibn Muljim approached the Imam. He waited until he completed his first rak'ah and then his first sajda. And when the Imam lifted his head, Ibn Muljim raised his sword and he struck Amir al-Mu'mineen's head, clefting the honorable head. While the sword was soaked in poison, the Imam felt the blood pouring from his head, saying, Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba, I swear I have succeeded by the Lord of the Kaaba. The Imam, while sitting down, he then began to wipe his wounds and was heard saying, from earth we have created you, and onto it we will return you, and from it we will extract you a second time. This is what Allah and His Messenger has promised us. The doors of the mosque began to violently shake. The angels of the sky began to wail. A dark storm began to brew, and Jibreel began to call out, Tahaddamat wallah arkan al-huda وانقسمت والله نجوم السماء وأعلام التقى وانفصمت والله العروة الوثقى قتل ابن عم المصطفى قتل الوصي المجتبى قتل عليا المرتضى قتله والله أشقى الأشقياء The pillars of guidance have been destroyed. The firmest handle to the true faith has split. The cousin of the Prophet is now martyred. The chief of the successors has now been struck. When Lady Zainab heard the eulogy of Jibreel, she began to beat her face and cry, Father, O Ali. Imams Hassan and Hussein came to the mosque crying, Father, O Ali, if only death had taken us instead of you. The two Imams found their father's face with blood pouring from it, drenching his body, and his head split, while with a discolored face affected by the poison. Imam Hassan caught this to his father, It is difficult for us to see you in this state. O Father, our backs are broken. The commander of the faithful opened his eyes and said with a soft voice, There is no grief for your father today. Here is your grandfather Muhammad, and your grandmother Khadija, and your mother Fatima, looking at me, awaiting my presence. So do not be sad and do not cry. As soon as the news reached the people of Kufa, They came out of their homes, weeping and wailing, towards the mosque of Kufa, calling, O Imam, by Allah, a pious worshipping Imam has been killed. He never prostrated to idols, and he was the most resembling to Rasulullah. The people found Imam al-Hassan with his father's head in his lap, wrapped yet still bleeding and drenching his surroundings, his face pale with the shade of yellow, with his eyes towards the sky and his tongue remembering Allah. Imam al-Hassan then noticed that his father had passed out, so he began to cry heavily, kissing his father's face and eyes and forehead. Some of his tears fell on his father's face, causing him to awake. And he said, "Oh my son, why do you cry? Do you cry for me when tomorrow you will also be oppressed and killed by the poison? And for you, Ya Aba Abdullah, it is you who will be slaughtered by the sword." Imam al-Hassan then said, asking his father, "Father, who did this to you?" The Imam replied, "Oh son, I was struck by Abdurrahman ibn Muljam." Imam al-Hassan then said, "Which way did he go?" The Imam replied, "There is no need to chase him. He will appear from this door in a few moments." And then the Imam pointed at the door of the mosque. After a while, Ibn Muljam was brought by a group of people and placed in front of the Imam, who was struck in his head also, and blood pouring from his face. The Imam asked him, "O enemy of Allah, Are you the one who killed our father, the commander of the faithful? Is this the reward for Ibn Muljam? Ibn Muljam, is this your service and your ilk? Was he a bad leader to you that you did this to him?" Ibn Muljam did not reply, but his tears began to fill his eyes. And then he said, "O Aba Muhammad, are you the one who saves people from fire? أنت الذي تنقذ من في النار?" This is when people began to cry and wail. Imam al-Hassan ordered all to be quiet, then turned to his father saying, "O father, this is the enemy of Allah and your enemy. He is between your hands." Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen opened his eyes and saw Ibn Muljam tied with his head bleeding and his sword hanging onto his neck, and said with a broken voice, "O you who have committed a grave act, was I a bad Imam to you, so that you rewarded me? So did I treat you well? Did I not treat you well? And even though people advised me against you, I still gave to you. And when I knew you were my killer, I still gave you a chance to turn back to Allah. But your wretchedness overtook you, so you killed me." Ibn Muljam's eyes teared up further, and then he asked the Imam, "Is it you who will save those in hellfire, O Ali?" The Imam turned to Imam al-Hassan and said, "O son, be kind to your captive, show him mercy, sympathize with him. Can you not see his eyes have gone back to the top of his head, and he is shaking of fear?" Imam Hassan replied, "O my father, this cursed one has killed you, and you should ask us to show him mercy." Imam Ali said, "Yes, my son, we the Ahlul Bayt do not increase upon sin other than generosity, forgiveness, mercy, and sympathy. This is our type. For my sake, feed him from what you eat, quench him from what you drink, and do not tie his hands nor feet." Look at the rahmah of Amir al-Mu'mineen. "For if I die, then avenge me equally by striking him with one strike as he did to me. And if I survive, then I will deal with him how I see fit." The Imam turned and ordered his people to go home, and he went home with Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah as he narrated, "When we placed my father on his bed, Lady Kulthum, Zainab, approached him crying and wailing. People began to shout and cry from outside his house. until the commander of the faithful's tears filled his cheeks. The doctor gathered and prescribed some milk for Imam because the sword of Ibn Muljam was poisoned. Milk became his food and drink. He called his sons Hassan and Hussein and began to hug and kiss them. While his tears would stream along his cheeks, Imam Hassan would give him some more milk and he would drink some, then ask for the rest to be given to Ibn Muljam. He would also remind them to feed him and be merciful to him and say, by Allah, I want you to be more generous than he was. On the eve of the 20th of Ramadan, the poison began to spread further on the body of the Imam, reaching his feet. From that night, he began to pray while sitting down. His legs could no longer carry him. The Imam continued to advise his children to enjoin good and forbid the evil, and he would continue preaching, and he allowed people to visit them and encouraged them to ask him questions, saying, ask me before you lose me. On one occasion when he asked for milk, he drank the entire bowl and realized that he did not save any for Ibn Muljam and said, I have finished all of this and did not save any for the captive. That was the will of Allah, as it seems that to be my last abundance in this world. But, O son, give him the same amount of milk to your captive. He then looked at his sons and saw that their souls were about to leave from their bodies from the wailing and weeping, which made the Imam break into tears, which mixed with his blood. And he said, do you cry for me? Cry a lot and laugh a little. For you, Ya Aba Muhammad Hassan, you will be poisoned and oppressed. And you, Ya Aba Abdullah, you are the martyr of this nation, and this nation will slaughter you like they slaughter a sheep from the back of your neck, and your body will be trampled by the horses, and your head will be paraded through the kingdom of Banu Umayyah. Your women will be taken captive. I will take them to account on the day of a judgment, and I will beseech for you. On the eve of the 21st of Ramadan, on a day like today, on a moment like this moment, a prominent medic by the name of Urwa Saluli witnessed the Imam's state and noticed that the poison had reached the brain of the Imam and told him, make your final will, O Commander of the Faithful, for tonight is your final night. So on the eve of the 21st, the Imam gathered his children and said, Allah is my protector over you, and He is the one we seek refuge in. The poison would get further into his body until his feet and legs turned red. He began mentioning the names of Allah. He then called all of his children one by one by their names, bidding them farewell. When Imam al-Hassan asked why he was doing so, Imam Ali replied he had seen Rasulullah tell him he would die in 3 nights, and this was the 3rd night. He then called his children from Fatima. He willed them to enjoin good and forbid evil. He then told them they were from him and he was from them. He then called the children from other mothers. He then enjoined upon them to take care of the children of Fatima, to never disobey them or to go against them. He then said to them all, my condolences to all of you for what will befall you, but tonight I will be departing and leaving you. I am joining my beloved Prophet Muhammad, and if I die, then wash me and shroud me and cover me with the remaining order of the Messenger of Allah, for it is from the comfort of paradise twice that Jibreel has brought down. The Imam began to will Imam al-Hassan accordingly to prepare him for his assumption of the role of Imam, and once again reminded his children of how to deal with Ibn Mujib and to only deal with justice with him. His forehead then began to sweat. He wiped the sweat with his hands. His daughter Zainab asked, "Why do I see you sweat so much and wipe your forehead so much?" He replied, "I heard from your grandfather Rasulullah say, when death nears the believer, his forehead would sweat profusely and become like a shining white pearl." Then she threw herself on her father, weeping and wailing, and said, "O father, I have heard about Karbala from Ayman, but I want to hear it from you." He said, "It is true. You and your family will be taken captive, and be patient." Then repeat this twice. Then repeat it twice more. He then turned to Al-Abbas alayhi salam. He said to him, "O Abbas, take heed in your sister Zainab, for you will be her guardian after me. Wa imama wa aliya." Then he turned to Hassan and Hussein and he said, "My sons, the nation will turn against you. You will be riddled with fitna. So be patient until Allah judges, and He is the best of all the judges." The Imam then passed out and regained consciousness. He said, "This is Rasulullah. This is my uncle Hamza and my brother Ja'far and the companions of Rasulullah, bidding me to hasten to them. There is Fatima, and that they all miss me." He then started bidding all of his family farewell and praying for them. He then faced the Qibla, enclosed his eyes and extended his legs, and departed this world a martyr, saying, "Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Bismillah wa billah wa ala millati Rasulillah. Rahimallah man nada wa aliyah wa aliyah wa aliyah wa shahida." Matam al-Hussein, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein.
ये जनाजा है अली का, शाह खैबर गिर का। ये जनाजा है अली का, ये जनाजा है अली का, शाह खैबर गिर का। ये जनाजा है अली का। आज बाबा मर गया है शबरो शबीर का। ये जनाजा है अली का, ये जनाजा शाह खैबर गिर का। ये जनाजा है फातिमा ज़हरा के मरकद से सदा आने लगी। फातिमा ज़हरा के मरकद से सदा आने लगी, है सदा आने लगी। یہ مصائب رہ گیا تھا کیا میری تقدیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، شاہ خیبر گیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا۔ یا رسول اللہ یہ جبریل نے رو کر کہا، یا رسول اللہ یہ جبریل نے رو کر کہا، ہائے یہ رو کر کہا، ایک حلقہ اور ٹوٹا نور کی زنجیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، شاہ خیبر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا۔ غم علی کی بیٹیوں کے پھر سے تازہ ہو گئے، غم علی کی بیٹیوں کے پھر سے تازہ ہو گئے، ہائے تازہ ہو گئے، غم ابھی بولی کہاں تھی مادر دلگیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، ہے برگیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا۔ بیٹیوں کو دیکھتے تھے اور روتے ہیں علی، بیٹیوں کو دیکھتے تھے اور روتے ہیں علی، ہائے روتے ہیں علی، ہائے وہ ضامن تصور شام کی تشہیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا، شاہ خیبر گیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا۔ آج بابا مر گیا ہے شبر و شبیر کا، یہ جنازہ ہے علی کا۔ سورۃ البات الفاتحہ۔
زیارت امام علی۔ اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد۔ بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم۔ رحمک اللہ یا ابا الحسن، كنت أول القوم إسلاما وأخلصهم إيمانا وأشدهم يقينا وأخوفهم لله وأعظمهم أناء وأهوتهم على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وآمنهم على أصحابه وأفضلهم مناقب وأكرمهم سوابق وأرفعهم درجة وأقربهم من رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وأشبههم به هديا وخلقا وسمتا وفعلا وأشرفهم منزلة وأكرمهم عليه. وجزاك الله عن الإسلام وعن رسوله وعن المسلمين خيرا. قويت حين ضعف أصحابه وبرزت حين استكانوا ونزهت هينا وهنو ولزمت منهاج رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله إذ هم أصحابه وكنت خليفتك حقا لم تنازع ولم تضرع برغم المنافقين وغيظ الكافرين وكره الحاسدين وصغر الفاسقين فقمت بالأمر حين فشلوا ونطقت حين تتعوا ومضيت بنور الله إذ وقفوا واتبعوك فهدوا وكنت أخفضهم صوتا وأعلاهم قنوتا وأقلهم كلاما وأصوبهم نطقا وأكبرهم رأيا وأشجعهم قلبا وأشدهم يقينا وأحسنهم أملا وأعرفهم بالأمور كنت ولله يعصوما للدين أولا وآخرا الأول حين تفرق الناس والآخر حين فشلوا كنت للمؤمنين أبا رحيما إذ صاروا عليك إيالا فحملت أثقال ما عنه ضعفوا وحفظت ما أضاءوا ورأيت ما أحملوا وشمرت إذ اجتمعوا وعلوت إذ هلأوا وصبرت إذ أسرعوا وأدركت أوتار ما طلبوا ونالوا بك ما لم يحتسبوا كنت على الكافرين عذابا صبا ونهبا وللمؤمنين أمدا وحسنا وترت والله بنعمائها وفزت بهبائها وأحرزت سوابغها وذهبت بفضائلها لم تفلل حجتك ولم يزع قلبك ولم تضعف بصيرتك ولم تجبن نفسك ولم تخن كنت كالجبل لا تحركه الأواصف وكنت كمال آمن الناس في صحبتك وضاط يدك وكنت كما قال ضعيفا بدنك قويا في أمر الله متواضعا في نفسك عظيما عند الله كبيرا في الأرض جليلا عند المؤمنين لم يكن لأحد فيك محمز ولا لقائل فيك مغمض ولا لأحد فيك مطمع ولا لأحد عندك هوادة الضعيف الذليل عندك قوي عزيز حتى تأخذ له بحقه والقوي العزيز عندك ضعيف الذليل حتى تأخذ منه الحق والقريب والبعيد عندك في ذلك سواء شأنك الحق وصدق ورفق وقولك الحكم وحتم وأمرك حلم وحزم ورأيك علم وعزم فيما فعلت وقد نهج بك السبيل وسحل بك العسير وأطفئت النيران واعتدل بك الدين وقوي بك الإسلام والمؤمنون وسبقت سبقا بعيدا وأتبعت من بعدك تعبا شديدا وجللت عن بكائي وعظمت رزيتك في السماء وحدت مصيبتك الأنام فإنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضينا عن الله قضاءه وسلمنا لله أمره والله لم يصب المسلمون بمثلك أبدا كنت للمؤمنين كهفا وحسنا وقنة راسية وعلى الكافرين غلجة وغيظا فألحقك الله بنبيه ولا حرمنا أجرك ولا أضلنا بعدك السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين وعلى ولديك الحسن والحسين وعلى زجيعيك آدم ونوح وعلى جارك حود وصالح ورحمة الله وبركاته. زيارة أمين الله. السلام عليك يا أمين الله في أرضه وحجته على عباده. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. أشهد أنك جاهدت في الله حق جهاده وأملت بكتابه واتبعت سنن نبيه صلى الله عليه وآله حتى دعاك الله إلى جواره وقبضك إليه باختياره وألزم أعداءك الحجة مع ما لك من الحجج البالغة على جميع خلقه. اللهم فاجعل نفسي مطمئنة بقدرك راضية بقضائك مولهة بذكرك ودعائك محبة لصفوة أوليائك محبوبة في أرضك وسمائك صابرة على نزول بلائك شاكرة لفواضل نعمائك ذاكرة لسوابغ آلائك مشتاقة إلى فرحة لقائك متزودة التقوى ليوم جزائك مستنة بسنن أوليائك مفارقة لأخلاق أعدائك مشغولة عن الدنيا بحمدك وثنائك. اللهم إن قلوب المقبتين إليك والها وسبل الراغبين إليك شارئة وأعلام القاصدين إليك واضحة وأفئدة العارفين منك فازئة وأصوات الدائين إليك صاعدة وأبواب الإجابة لهم مفتحة ودعوة من ناجاك مستجابة وتوبة من أناب إليك مقبولة وعبرة من بكى من خوفك مرحومة ولا الإغاثة لمن استغاث بك موجودة ولا إعانة لمن استعان بك مبذولة وإداتك لعبادك منجزة وزلل من استقالك مقالة وأعمال العاملين لديك محفوظة وأرزاقك إلى الخلائق من لدنك نازلة وأوائد المزيد إليه واصلة وذنوب المستغفرين مغفورة وهوائج خلقك عندك مقضية وجوائز السائلين عندك موفرة وأوائد المزيد متواترة وموائد المستطعمين معدة ومناهل الظماء مطرعة. اللهم فاستجب دعائي واقبل ثنائي واجمع بيني وبين أوليائي بحق محمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين إنك ولي النعماء ومنتهى منايا وغاية رجائي في منقلبي ومثواي. أنت إلهي وسيدي ومولاي اغفر لأوليائنا وكف عنا أعدائنا واشغلهم عن أضانا وأظهر كلمة الحق واجعله العليا وأدحض كلمة الباطل واجعلها السفلى إنك على كل شيء قدير. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام على الحسين وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذريتك علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. أجر الله تعالى فرجك وسحر الله مخرجك وظهورك ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقاعدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتئه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
2 rakat namaz, Hadya Ziyarat is requested.
شهر رمضان الذي ينزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصمه